So then before we get started with this one, this isn't the 1000 sub special that I was going to do, and the reason for that is there were some technical issues with that one. So that one will have to wait, and it will come, and it will be named as such, but this isn't it. But yeah, thanks for the 1000 subscribers. It's quite flattering really that that many people feel that I'm worthy of their time in the day. So, but I'll go into a little bit more detail in that on the 1000 sub special. Obviously, it is quite nice though. You know, I never really expected to get this far with the channel. I just expected it to be a little distraction for a couple of months towards the tail end of last summer. So it has been quite interesting, but nonetheless, we will have a quick free-for-all. Well, I say quick, this is actually quite a long one, but this is a free-for-all on the map Iron Hills, which I did, and it's a 2v2v2, similar to the Mountain Pass one in many ways, only with this one, there was infinite funds, and the only rule was you could not bring a unit once its cost increased. So obviously you couldn't just bring like a full stack of like trolls or balrogs or something like that. And those were the only rules, so it's going to be quite interesting to see how this works out. And it's going to be a last man standing, so no scored resolution. It's going to be whoever is left alive at the end, and obviously I'm playing as Mordor. And in fact, the teams are as follows. It is evil faction, so myself and my teammate are the evil factions. There are two who are playing as the good men, and then there are two who are playing as the elves. So if you want to make a little bet with yourself who's going to win this battle before it starts, then do go ahead. But this is going to be my army. Now, as Mordor, I decided to bring 3 units of Morannon heavy maulers. Now, obviously, you know, even with infinite funds, with the rule that I couldn't just have everything, like just have a full stack of like Temple Inquisitors, I had to make some sacrifices, and the heavy maulers were I did, because they are armor piercing. They do have a good deal of charge damage, and also I wanted to be very aggressive with this. I also have a unit of Uruk Bodyguard. I have 2 units of Morannon bows. I've got 1 unit of Temple Guard, 2 units of Sauron's Will, 1 unit of Nazgul, a Troll Catapult, 1 unit of Temple Inquisitors, 2 Mountain Trolls, 1 unit of Númenórean Shield Guard, 1 Morgul Chosen, and then back here I have 1 unit of Lesser Balrog and 1 Olag High, and then I also have a Melkor's Chosen and a Mounted Temple Inquisitor. My ally up here, my fellow evil faction, is going to be Master Blaster playing as Rune. He's got a couple of units of Lok'Scion Rim, a unit of Dragon's Wrath Guildsman, some Carmel's Chosen, and down here he has some Gamp Rim, some Flag Rim, Balchoth Sapphire Bladesman, a Catapult. He's also got some Dragon's Wrath Crossbowmen somewhere, but I know that they hide, so won't be able to see them. More Gamp Rim over here. Again, more Gamp Rim, a lot of Gamp Rim and a lot of Flag Rim. He's also got some Camel's Dragon Knights as his only cavalry unit, I think. No, actually he does have more. Flag Rim. And over there he has the bodyguard unit and more Flag Rim. And then up here he's got some Carmel's Shadow Guard that are hidden. He's also got some Shadow Bows, I believe. So that rounds out the evil factions which we are playing. We'll move on to the races of men, at least the good men. And we have the Fat playing as Dol Amroth. He of course has some Talon Knights. He has some Tirith Ea Wardens, more Talon Knights, some Swan Knights as well. Haven Guard of course, Wardens, Halberdiers, all of Dol Amroth's best infantry basically. Tirith Ea Marksman, a Trebuchet, that's moving into Arnor's army. But up front here he has all of his cavalry, so he has some Dor and Ernil Lancers, he has some Knights of the Silver Swan, he's got some regular Swan Knights as well. You don't see them very often if you get in close. We can see that here are the Swan Knights, although if you notice their armour looks exactly the same as the Knights of the Silver Swan because they have their armour upgrades. So it's a neat thing, that. And then obviously we have the White Knights as well. So Dol Amroth going pretty heavy with their cav as expected. Then back here we have Arnor being played by Creed. He's got some Knights of Anunos. He's got 2 units, and I'm not sure if he broke the rules here. I'm pretty sure you can only have 1 before the cost increases. Either way, it's not really that important. I mean, it's not really something that I intended to be balanced going in. He's got a unit of bodyguards. He's got some Trebuchet. He's got 3 units of Dunedain Rangers. Again, that might be breaking the rules. I'm not sure. Dunedain Bodyguard, Arthedain Men-at-Arms, Arnor Gate Guards, dismounted Arthedain Knights, and dismounted Dunedain Knights. So again, very, very elite army. And then finally we have the Elves. And first of all we have the Woodland Realms being played by Kong Sirisard 6. Apparently this was his first battle on 3rd Age Reforged. I don't know if it was his first battle in Medieval 2 in general. I don't think so. I mean, he played competently enough that I don't think that's the case. But he's got some Hirt E Lang. He is playing as the Woodland Realms, of course, who are the strongest faction. So that does make up for it somewhat. He's got some Hirt E Dirith. He's got some Avari Elder Pikemen. 2 units, I believe. He's also got some Elder Palace Guard, of course. The Elder Palace Guard. Very, very strong indeed. Definitely one of the strongest units in the game as it stands. Some Hirti Beng, Elder Royal Guard. He's got some Elder Royal Council, and then he's also got some Hirten Ek and some more Hirten Ek. So if I just get the camera angle just right, he's also got some cavalry somewhere. I know he has. But anyway, we've got some Tundra's Fox's army over here with some Lothlorien elves. He's got several units of Galadrim mounted company, and over here he's got some Galadrim veteran riders. So missile cab and melee cab, and then the main bulk of his army directly facing off against me. He's got veteran warriors, Sindar archers, woodland warriors, Sylvan heavy spearmen, Sylvan axemen. He's also got some Sylvan heavy swordsmen here and there. More Sylvan axemen. Over there are the Sylvan heavy spearmen and the Elder Council, and then he's got sentinels of the woodland realms up front. And over here, some Sylvan heavy archers and spearmen. So this is going to be it, and obviously, as I said, it's going to be last man standing. And obviously, based on how we're sort of squared off against one another, the only option really for myself and Lothlorien is to really go at one another, and I'm going to charge in. And really, this was rather suicidal or bloodthirsty on my part, really, because when you're doing a last man standing scenario, you don't really want to go hyper aggressive. You want to keep some stuff in reserve. But I couldn't resist. As Mordor with sort of no rule, well, I say no rules, unlimited funds, the temptation to just try and go forth and squash your enemy is too great, really. Especially when you're up against a faction like Lothlorien. Lothlorien, they do have some skillful units. Obviously, stuff like this Sylvan Axeman, pretty deadly. Obviously, they've got their armour upgrade, so they look much cooler than they normally do. But Lothlorien are a little bit lightweight in the way that they operate, and this does open the door for me to try and overwhelm them. Obviously, my bows are also trying to come raining down on them, but they do have the skirmisher advantage. But if I can make my skirmishers pay early on, then it won't really matter too much. Obviously, I've got these Morannon heavy maulers getting their charge bonus off on the Sylvan Axeman, but it is going to be difficult trying to chew through all of these units. Again, I'm trying to sort of attack on this flank primarily. I've got my cavalry sort of just going around here, and in fact, actually, this is where I make a big mistake. A bit of a micro mistake here. I sent my mounted Temple Inquisitors in, and unfortunately they got overwhelmed, mainly because I wasn't really paying attention to what they were doing, and unfortunately I charged them in, and I realised I lost them, so I decided to pull back my Melkor's Chosen, use them defensively on the Sylvan Elven cavalry, or I should say Lothlorien cavalry. Now these Sylvan Axemen are trying to sort of wrap around, but I am going over on this flank, and I did smash through with my trolls, and these woodland warriors are really going to struggle. Shock units like this traditionally do quite well against single units of trolls, but this is 2 units of mountain trolls, and they got their charge off, so they were heavily weakened by the initial charge there. And also, if you look over here, the Balrogs and the Olakai are on the way, and if we just look over here, my Morgul Chosen and Númenorian Shield Guard are in melee against their Sylvan Heavy Spearmen, and that'll be a slow fight, but it will be one that I win. I also have artillery, which he does not have. I'm also getting my Temple Inquisitors into melee to reinforce my heavy maulers, which won't win. They're just there to be fodder on the front, really. And if it's just Lothlorien, I should be able to overwhelm them. The elves are going to start to struggle against me if I can manage to keep this assault up, particularly with all of these Balrogs and trolls. Again, these Balrogs, they've got so many hit points. Again, they can be overwhelmed, but with this many trolls around them, it forms a pretty effective meat shield. These woodland warriors will fall by the wayside pretty quickly. But unfortunately, this flank over here, where my mounted Temple Inquisitors fell, it was an unfortunate play on my part. These Melkor's Chosen going to charge into these Sylvan Heavy Spearmen, and that is a pretty deadly charge. You can see how many of them died just on that charge alone. Very heavy cavalry unit. The Caragor's much heavier than the Wargs, and they get a lot of damage done on the charge. I've kept my Sauron's Will back. However, what I want my ally to do at this point is to really help me. Again, my play was quite aggressive, and I can understand, maybe you want to sort of hold back, but here's the thing: in a team-based battle, if one of your teammates goes in for the attack, and you think it's a little bit reckless and you think it's not really a good idea, the worst thing you can do is leave them to die. Because leaving them to die just means you're not going to have an ally, they're going to fall away, and you're not going to be able to take on a numbers discrepancy this big on your own. So even if you think your ally has made a mistake, at this point it's too late. I've already fully committed. If he wanted me not to do it, he should have told me, and I would have pulled back. But unfortunately, at this point, I'm going to be struggling a little bit. Now, I did charge in my Sauron's Will into these Sylvan Axemen. I've also got my Nazgul. You can see them in here, sort of doing their thing. And as you can see, I'm sort of being flanked around again by more units of spears. You can see some Avari pikemen from the Woodland Realms also being sent over. And in the background there, my worst nightmare, the full complement of the Woodland Realms cavalry, including the Elder King's Guard. And obviously over here my trolls were sort of really leading the way, and my spears were breaking through as well. But unfortunately without the support from my ally, and if we look up here, he is not moving. He is very much in a bit of a noob square, or certainly a sort of a noob oblong as it were. And he is pretty much hanging me out to dry, and he is sending over a token force, including these Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen and his catapult. The thing is, if you're going to sit back, you know, don't send your Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen up. You know, that's one of the most deadly units you can have, particularly on bunched up enemies. Now, that I believe was my catapult hitting his Elder King's Guard, so the Woodland Realms General is actually dead, but again, without the support from Rune, this cavalry is going to tie my army up very, very quickly indeed. And again, I was very aggressive, and that wasn't really the best move on my part. There goes the Lothlorien general as well. So interestingly enough, my catapult managing to kill both elven generals, but it's not going to be sufficient. There is simply too much cavalry for my units to deal with. There's also missile cab, and they still have sufficient numbers of archers, and they are going to be able to tie up my units. In here, in the centre, I have managed to win, courtesy really of my Orc bodyguard and my Temple Inquisitors. Most of my Morannon Maulers are dead. Yeah, that cavalry, it really was what finished me off in the end. If you look over here as well, you can see that my Melkor's Chosen, continually charging into the spears, has taken its toll, and they are now dead. So these upgraded Sylvan heavy spearmen, I should say, are now free to try and get into my Troll Catapult. All my archers. Down here, this unit of Sylvan Axemen, defeat is a distinct possibility. These Sauron's Will should be sufficient to kill them again. On their own, they are actually kind of fragile despite the hit points. With the Nazgul helping them out, it should be fine. These Sylvan Axemen should fall. But if we look over here, we can see that the constant pressure from the Cav has meant that all I have left really over here is some Númenórean Shield Guard, 2 Balrogs, and then this cluster of infantry over here. The lack of support from Rune is really what finished me off. In fact, if we look over here, we can see that Rune's cavalry was completely overwhelmed by all of the cavalry from Arnor and Dol Amroth. And the Carmel's Dragon Knights, they're good, but they're really not this good. Completely overwhelmed by a sea of super elite cavalry. So where Rune has really committed token forces out, which have just been easily picked off. So it's a bit of a shame there. Meanwhile, if you look here, the Sylvan Heavy Spearmen did get into my catapult to stop it firing, and unfortunately here, this is the sight I really didn't want to see. The Elder King's Guard, all of the Woodland Realms cavalry, charging in, dealing significant damage to my infantry that's back here. My Sauron's Will, I've got my Temple Guard back here, and my Morannon bows. But yeah, all of this cavalry, too much. Without the support of Rune and their pikes, this is the end for me. You can see back here the Elder Pathfinders. I've managed to get into this unit, although they did die off pretty quickly. But ultimately, with all the cycle charging that's going to happen to this unit, even with the Temple Inquisitors and those 2 remaining Balrogs, it's not going to be good enough. So again, I mean, with Mordor, you kind of have to be hyper-aggressive to a point. I mean, they do have other options, but I really set this army up with the intent of crushing the army nearest to me as quickly as possible, but unfortunately, with the support from the Woodland Realms cavalry, I just didn't have enough. And here we can see the Galadrim Mounted Company charging in to the Dragon's Wrath crossbowman. Again, this is really not a unit you want to lose, and unfortunately also the catapult crew being hunted down like dogs by these Galadrim Mounted Company also. So yeah, I do shoulder some of the blame for our bad start here. I mean, most of my army has been destroyed because I was very aggressive, but Rune should have followed me. I mean, even if you don't think it's a good idea, you need to support your ally in situations like this. Otherwise, later on in the battle, you're putting yourself at a severe disadvantage. And it's not even like Rune has got a particularly fantastic defensive position. There's, you know, they can come up here. They can really overwhelm this thick part of the line. Again, they do have this slight elevation. But again, I don't think Rune's skirmishers are good to the point where they're going to be able to beat Arnor's in particular and the Woodland Realms. Again, I'm just being charged into oblivion by the Woodland Realms cavalry. Kong, for a new player, has used them very, very well indeed. It's possible he wasn't a new player, of course. It's possible I was being lied to. But I do kind of doubt that as well. He was a very amiable person, so I'm inclined to believe him. And again, with the combination, you know, Lothlorien's cavalry is definitely not as good as the Woodland Realms, but its presence here is making it very difficult, and well, made it very difficult. If you look down here, the remaining Morannon bows and that one troll catapultman being cut down by the Lothlorien elves. And I did do quite a lot of damage to the Lothlorien elves. Their army is looking a bit worse for wear. They have their cavalry, their elite archers, and some very haggard infantry units left, and that's about it. So at this point, the factions that are made up of good men, you know, the Númenóreans we could call them, if we look down here, they are the ones who are in the driving seat at the moment. They've taken virtually no losses. They are firing in, and actually down here you can see that the engagement is kind of underway. The Woodland Realms firing back at Arnor, but definitely this skirmish fight is in favour of Arnor at the moment, simply because the Woodland Realms are bottlenecked, whereas Arnor are able to spread out a little bit more, and obviously Dol Amroth also helping with those Tirithea marksmen. If we go back over here to the dregs of this fight, this is pretty much the end. The Woodland Realms just wrapping up a few more of my units. If we go there over into the background. Oh, what's down there? Well, they're all dead now, so who cares? A hammer and anvil charge onto the Temple Inquisitors and the Númenórean Shield Guard. Again, they're a very dangerous unit, but they're just being overwhelmed. So yeah, my aggressive push was halted by a good use of teamwork, because if the Woodland Realms did not come, I do think that my push would have destroyed Lothlorien. Again, at the cost of most of my army as well, but even so. I like to be active rather than reactive, I must say. Yeah, we can see that the only unit really that I've managed to save are these guys, my Nazgul, with the General. They're very bloodied up though, and there are only 6 of them left. They took a pretty hefty charge, so bad news bears for Mordor. And also the Dragon's Wrath crossbowmen easily cycle charged to death. Again, bit of a waste in my opinion. If you're going to stay back, at least stay back with everything. The Galadrin Mounted Company over there in the background. So again, let's go back over to here. Oof, the Trebuchet is firing down on these here at Anak. But really over here it's just a skirmish fight at the moment. Battle has not yet been joined. Let's go back up here, shall we? There's a Camul Shadow Bows. These Galadrin Mounted Company were trying to chase them down, but unfortunately they didn't make it. These Flagrim are going to chase them off. Not many kills. My Nazgul were also there. Is this going to be it? This is going to be the hill we die on. This very, very small hill. Because this is going to have to be the defensive position we take up at this point. We're going to have to let the Woodland Realms and Dol Amroth, well, the Alliance of Men, bleed themselves against the Alliance of Elves before we try and take them on, because they've got a pretty significant advantage at this point. And Dunedain Rangers, if we look up here, you can see that the cavalry contingent of the Númenórean factions, or Númenórean inheritors, is making its way around here, and they are going to be, you know, they smell blood up here. You know, we have a very weakened position. We're going to be heavily reliant as the fight goes on these Gamp Rim to really hold back the tide. And they will do that, but I'm not sure we have enough. We still have some good anti-armor capabilities. That will stand us in good stead against the races of men. Artillery going both ways, but Trebuchet I think that really does have an advantage. It's able to shoot down into this valley. And again, the Woodland Realms are in a bit of trouble. Look at all these dead men. These Elder Royal Guard, no less. It's not a unit you really want to lose. Both units of Elder Royal Guard. The Council are back there though. And there are some bang. Oof. What's he going for? He's going for the Elder Palace Guard. Unsurprising. Very, very strong in melee. Some Foresters of Haleth. Another interesting unit. Quite lightly armoured. Yeah, the Woodland Realms, I'm not sure what they can do here, because if they retreat they will be hunted down. It's a bit of a sticky situation. They don't really have much of Lothlorien left to reinforce them, courtesy of my rather haphazard attack, it must be said. Again, if we look over here we can see some Talon Knights and some Tirith Wardens. The trap up here doesn't know there's Camul Shadow Guard hidden, so hopefully he can cut one of these cav units down to size. preferably one of the Knights of the Silver Swan. Door and Ernil Lancers is something that Rune's pikes can take care of very, very easily in melee. Looks like they are starting to move now. They sent up quite an expeditionary force up here, especially the Fat. You know, Talon Knights, most of his good cav. There's also some Knights of Anuminos from Creed. And then there's also some Nimrodel Rangers. Lightly armoured, but very, very good on the attack. Well, at least their arrow attacks. Rangers, quite fragile. Some Swan Knights back there as well. Let's see what's going on over here, shall we? Again, the Woodland Realms look like they've taken a bit of a harrowing arrow storm. And there's no sign of that letting up just yet. Well, actually, maybe there is. These Tirithea marksmen might be out of ammunition. Nope, they still have their bows. So yet more arrow fire could come raining down on the Woodland Realms position. But it looks like they're actually going to send over reinforcements to try and finish us off in the form of Edholond Halberdiers and some Talon Knights. And again, this is not a bad idea. We can see that the Galadriel veteran riders are sort of running around. But if you take this path up here on the Iron Hills, you can go up here. And then they can reinforce the fight directly. Because at the moment we are being skirmished. And Dol Amroth and Arnor. Oh, excuse me. I'm very tired. But yes, as I was saying, Dol Amroth and Arnor have got a huge skirmish advantage over Rune. Ooh, back down here we can see a cav engagement. Let me see if I can scoot over to that quite quickly. The bodyguards of Arnor getting stuck into these Galadriel mounted company and these veteran warriors. They don't want to stay too long in melee against them, particularly not with the Elder Kingsguard in the background there. The Elder Kingsguard is really no joke. These veteran riders in melee against the bodyguards, the Woodland Realm sending their cavalry over. And Creed is sending over this other unit of Knights of Anuminos. They're going very, very slowly though. And their cavalry is in danger of being tied up here by the elven charges. Again, the Galadriel veteran, the Galadriel mounted company, I should say, charging into the side of those Arnor bodyguards. Of course, both elves have lost their general. Won't make too much of a difference to them, of course. Elves are disciplined, even without their general. There's the Knights of Anuminos. And again, the cav is going to be significant. Whoever can secure that advantage is going to be sitting quite pretty. If we look over here, you can see that the Carmel's Shadow Guard fighting off Dunedain Rangers. Are they going to get into melee against Bodyguard? I don't think so. Well, out here they are going to have a great deal of trouble. You know, Knights of the Silver Swan are on the way. Those Dor and Ernil Lancers are on the way as well, although they will probably die pretty quickly, honestly, to the Carmel's Shadow Guard. You know, they aren't exactly the most durable, but they are shocking true and they didn't get a counter charge. Yeah, they're starting to die pretty quickly. The Knights of the Silver Swan with a pretty tame charge, honestly. They will start losing hit points as well, but again, overwhelming tactics at the moment being used against us. If we look over here, the battle lines have been drawn. Rune has moved forward, exposing his flank somewhat to this incline over here, and you can see that Arnor has got troops waiting down there. Actually, no, sorry, Dol Amroth has got troops waiting down there, just ready to reinforce. If we look down here, the Loke Gamprim is going to try and get into melee. They are very, very good, but against this weight of numbers, against this many Swan Knights and Wardens, I don't think that it's going to be enough. Especially not with this cav. I mean, there's not much we can really do to contain it other than hope that our pikes will put him off enough. We shall see. Let's see what's going on down here, shall we? Here we are. The skirmish phase seems to have ended, but neither side is eager to advance through the canyon toward the other one. So once again, the main event of the battle is taking place up by Rune. This cavalry engagement seems to have gone pretty swimmingly. For the elves, they still have their cavalry left over in the background, whereas Arnor, just one unit of Knights of Anuminos. That's bad. Let's get a closer look at this line, shall we? So again, they're a flag rim in the front line. They should do pretty well against Dol Amroth style units with all their heavy armour, backed up by the Gamp Rim as well. Unfortunately, there's simply so many of them that I don't think we can hold this line for long. And perhaps more worryingly, we have those units in the background there marching over, ready to take advantage. Again, the runic player doesn't really see this and he commits more men to the front line. The Scion Rim and the Carmel's Chosen are going in. No messing around. My Nazgul, I'm also going to commit them. There are only 6 of them, but they are individually very tough. And whatever section of the line they're fighting on, they could well tilt the fight in our favour. That remains to be seen. And these Knights of Numenor not really doing much here. Hanging around the backs of their own lines. They could be getting some hammer and anvil strikes up on those Loke Scion Rim, especially stuff like the Carmel's Chosen. You want to weaken them, then victory here on this flank is assured. They are being made to pay for it though. Advancing through these defensive positions is not easy. There are some Balshot Sapphire Blazemen with their javelins, and then there are some Clan Crossbowmen with their bolts. Ready. At the ready. Again, going for the partial surround off with these Scion Rim and these Gamp Rim up against these Talon Knights. Defeat still seems certain for them though. The Talon Knights are that good. Dol Amroth cavalry is no joke. They're no Rohan, but they're pretty darn close, at least in this patch. Again, I'm sure there will be changes. Again, look at all their units start to hide. Unfortunately, we can see that there is an exposed section of our line. They do get the lances down, but it is ultimately a very tame charge from those Knights of the Silver Swan. They are capable of much more devastation than that. And now they're taking javelin fire from the Sapphire Blazemen. A lot of them fall in that one volley. Very neat looking unit. Especially their weaponry. The large curved scimitar. Well, these lances actually managed to get through. Oh god, excuse me. I got barely any sleep last night. I think I might actually have to get some sleep after I've done this. But yes, those cavalry units have finally been mopped up. Those 3 units of Dor and Ernil Lancers. Again, if we look down here, we can see that the line isn't doing too great for Dol Amroth. They do need to reinforce it. These Dragon's Wrath Guildsmen are taking consistent charges. They're out here in the open. All exposed to archer fire, but more importantly cav charges. Over here, battle has still not been met. The skirmish phase is over for the time being, at least largely. And the Woodland Realm's just waiting for the advance of men. What's back here? His general, his cav. Probably a few of... Nope. Actually, yes, there is. There's some Tundra's Fox cavalry over here. This Galadriel Mounted Company, my brain completely switched off for a second there. Meanwhile, let's see if the flanking force has finally arrived. It has indeed. These Talon Knights have arrived, peeling off these Shadow Guard to try and hold them back. Again, Shadow Guard, they're good, but they're not this good. Talon Knights, they are strong. They're going to be able to stand up to a unit of depleted Shadow Guard all day long. We need to get those crossbows firing into the side of them. This is a high-profile target, and there they go. My ally realising the amount of kills he could be getting, and the Talon Knights will start to drop under crossbow fire, certainly. Targeting the Halberdiers would not be bad for a crossbow unit to do either. Oh, bloody tree. And over here you can see that the line is starting to bow in places. In our favour sometimes, but also against us. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how this plays out. And then over here we can see that Arnor is finally starting to make their advance. So the humans are going to be the aggressive ones against the elves. Again, the elves are always pretty defensive in nature. And they're going to be leading the way with these Arthur Dane men-at-arms. There's also a few Dunedain Rangers who suicidally charged into the spears. Again, these Arthur Dane men-at-arms should do okay at surviving, but they need to bring in something with a little bit more bite if they're hoping to actually break through here. It might just be that they just want to occupy the Woodland Realm so that they can attack while they focus down myself and Rune. And as you can see from the minimap, it's not looking too good. You can see this group of Nazgul right in the thick of it against these Wardens. They will actually beat the Wardens because of their very low attack score, but if we come across a unit of Haven Guard, that's my army done. The Nazgul is all I have left. My early aggression did not pay dividends like I hoped it would in this one. The elves reinforced one another quite soundly. And the quality of the Númenórean Inheritor factions is going to pay off, unfortunately. Even with this crossbow fire, it's not going to be enough to turn the tide. We still have to fight basically 2 armies at once. And I say we, the royal we, because most of my Nazgul are now dead. They're still in the melee somewhere, otherwise it would have said my general has died. I think that might be him. Well, regardless. It's going to be interesting, actually, I think, during the new patch to see how Rune go through it. Because I like their focus of being anti-armor, but not necessarily as tough as their counterparts from the west. Unfortunately, this Knights of Illuminus is still running around, and without the Dragon Knights or the bodyguard to protect, hammer and anvil all day, every day on this front, I fear. Rune are doomed. And that means, by extension, I am doomed. In fact, we might be able to speed it up here. Nothing much happens on the other front, I know that. Again, good use of the cavalry. They need to keep it away from the Gamp Brim, ideally, but... okay, that should do. Let's go and see what movement there has been down on this front. Not much, I'm guessing, and indeed there isn't. You can just see these here and Ek being reinforced by some Sylvan Heavy Archers. So again, it's all about holding Arnor back over here, hoping that we do enough damage to them so that the Elves can try and stage a comeback, but at the moment... the Arnor Dol Amroth alliance is looking like the favourites to win this. I mean, look how many men they've still got on the field. Again, it's going to be... I'm not really sure what to make of the Loke Scion Rim. I do certainly like the look of them. Again, if they were armour piercing, that would certainly make up my mind about them being a fantastic spear unit. But as it is, I prefer the runic units with a little bit more punch. You know, the Carmel's Chosen in particular, who are somewhere. Are they all dead? No, they're still in there. Only 61. Carmel's Shadow Bows are sort of getting in behind enemy lines. I would not go for the Cav. As soon as they turn around, you're going to start to die horribly. Well, it looks like he's going for the Cav. Death or glory, I can certainly appreciate that. Well, some of them died on the charge, but not most of them. Well, the tragedy in gold, as they call it. There's not really much left of our armies. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm dead. No, I still have 6 men. They haven't lost any. The Nazgul really are very tough when you get them into another unit, but unfortunately they're kind of isolated now, and they are starting to come up against Haven Guard. Definitely a unit they can really stonewall the Nazgul pretty effectively, even with support, if used right. Now again, these dismounted Dunedain Knights, Dunedain Troll Slayers, trying to commit everything to this front line. It's not a bad idea. If they break through here, that's game. They have won. We shall wait and see. Let's go and see what's going on up top. It's turned into 2 battles. And yeah, clean up duty for the men with the Swan Banner. There's still a few. Maybe I'll just... again, no sense in waiting through an encounter like this that we know we've lost horribly. Again, I think my ally really missed the trick. He should have reinforced me, because then that would have encouraged at least the humans to also go after the elves, and we could have squeezed them out. But unfortunately, as it was, my ally did not. He really left me out to dry. Yeah, no shit, defeat seems almost certain. I've got basically no units left on the field. In fact, this is my one guy. My general, no less. A generic Nazgul. Up against Haven Guard. Well, he died. So that's it. That's pretty much it for me. There's still pockets of runic resistance again. This Scion Rim will be pretty hard to dislodge. But other than that, everyone is done up here. And the focal point of the battle shifts over to here. Yeah, this line is looking pretty thin on the ground now. The Woodland Realms really do need to be careful, and sending up this Dirith unit to really hold the line is a good move. The thing that the Elven Alliance does have in spades at the moment is cavalry. In fact, if we look over here, you can see that that is Imrahil dead. So that is the Dol Amroth general dead. Now both of the Elven generals are also dead, so that leaves just the Arnorian general alive on the field, I believe. Actually, I didn't see the Brunic general die. Maybe he did at some point.
The enemy are badly bloodied. They have lost
Yeah, here we can
half their
see
men.
they're starting to send some units down. There are still some runic units up here that they need to finish off. But they really need to get some reinforcements over to the elves so they can really start to pin down that cav and really assert their dominance in this fight. Let's get another close-up of the Scion Rim. Looking resplendent in their gold. Again, it's a good addition to Rohan. Most of the Easterlings have got like a very good spear that has 2 hit points. Obviously the Scion Rim, Naru Naaru, Royal Guard. I think Harad don't have one, unfortunately, but even so, might be an interesting comparison. I'm definitely going to be doing the Elven Archers first as a comparison though. They're all just way too good, and good in different ways that I can't really ignore it. So going back up to where the battle was, there is nothing other than elves. Now I would have thought that maybe the Arnorian player would probably have saved his trebuchet ammunition. But here we can see a real problem for Arnor. The Elder Pathfinders and the Elder Kingsguard slamming into these marksmen, and the trebuchet is under attack, and this is what I mean. If you moved it forward and used your ammo a little earlier, at least I assume that he's still got some ammunition left. I mean, I didn't see that many volleys go off. You know, that could be crucial. I mean, this cavalry at the moment could be the deciding factor, all things considered. Charging into the backs of these unprotected dismounted Dunedain Knights. Unfortunately, there goes the Runic General, so that's going to lead to his breaking pretty soon. He was in a general... Well, he's in a unit of Scion Rim. That's quite unexpected. So again, that's a pretty significant dent taken out of the dismounted Dunedain Knights. Very, very unfortunate. Yep, this is the final stand of Rune. Just these spearmen against very elite infantry, Swan Knights, Haven Guard, some Nimrodel Rangers mixed in there as well, for good measure. But yeah, Rune's undoing was the passivity, I think, at the start, and my undoing was the exact opposite, I guess. So who's this? The Dunedain Bodyguard from Creed moving across to reinforce that front line. These Woodland Elk. I know not a lot of, well, I know that lore people won't like them, but there's no doubting how effective they are. I mean, the Woodland Realms are pretty OP as it stands, but the Pathfinders can be pretty weak, but there's nothing weak about the Kingsguard. Also, they're being backed up by this ranged cav, this Galadrim mounted company. This alliance of elves, it's working out so far. We've got some dismounted Dunedain Knights. Trying to get into the melee, that's an interesting idea because it does get you closer to these pikemen. And if you can get them to charge into the backs of the pikemen, they will turn around very, very quickly and start to poke cavalry to death with impunity. There's still blue triangles up here. But look here, there are 2 Carmel Shadow Guard, each from different units, chasing off the trebuchet crew. That's pretty funny. This is it. The brave back-to-back last stand of the Runic soldiers. The Golden Boys. It's not going to be enough though. As you can see, there's still a fair amount of this battle to go, so it's not... If you put your money on evil, I'm afraid you've lost it. There's still a fight to be had between elves and men. That cavalry could swing it. If it was just infantry, men would have it. But good use of that cavalry could definitely swing it to the elves. And look at all this death back here. It wasn't all from skirmish fire. You know, some of the thicker clumps were from where charges happened. Again, they do have some units in reserve, but I'm not sure what's going on up here. Still fighting Scion Rim. Just the one dude. I do think we still have some Carmel Shadow Guard over by the trebuchet to act as kind of our army. But that is it. The forces of evil dispelled. Mostly my fault as well, it must be said. Man, I am tired. I don't know if it's come across in this video, but I am absolutely falling on my feet tired. Nonetheless, Pathfinders charging in, trying to avoid the pikes. They do. But with that many men in the unit, charges are not going to be especially effective from now on. Especially not with those gate guards nearby. the horns being blown. I don't think they make too much of a difference, to be honest with you. Dunedain Bodyguard. What do you mean you... See, the Adhalond Halberdiers have always been, in my opinion, the best halberd unit in 3rd Age Reforged, and this is a sentiment that has been sort of echoed in the official Discord. Now, Halberdiers are very good in a choke point fight like this one, under normal circumstances, I would say, and Adhalond Halberdiers especially. The problem is they do the majority of their damage against armour, and neither of these elven factions have any armour really. The High Elves do, at their high end, but not Lothlorien or the Woodland Realms. So they are in trouble here. The forces of men. They're trying to force their way through. Not exactly recommended. You don't really have the men or manpower if it fucks up to do that. Although it is starting to look like the elves still have reserves, and it's, you know, the Arnorian Dol Amroth reserves are kind of dwindling. I mean, they're sending down some from the front that we were on, but they have to cross the minefield of cavalry first, which is somewhere. It's a good question, actually. Where is it? Well, there's some down there anyway. Again, this is... Just going to zoom in on the front line here. I'm amazed there's no lag, actually. I tried to juice the graphics up even more for this one. Again, it's looking like the skill of the Sindar Blade Masters is going to be sufficient to hold both the Dunedain Knights and the Gatekeepers, both depleted admittedly of. Now they're sending in the Veteran Company and more Foresters, so yeah, the Arnorian advance is actually going to fall. These Adhalond Halberds are coming in now, but is it too little too late, I wonder? Let's find out. Marching slowly into position, but again, they're not going to be able to cover the whole line, and they're going to be able to be wrapped in on, well, wrapped around pretty easily, especially from the Sindar Blade Masters in the bottom left, and especially when they're being followed up by Galadrim Veteran Company, I should say. Very similar sounding units. And again, there's still some Dirith in there. The Gate Guards have held their own. Look at all the death. Look at the destruction. In fact, this is where most of the final battle takes place. So if we just increase the speed just a little bit, and by a little bit I mean all the way, we can see that the elves are very slowly starting to push the Arnorians back. So despite having a numbers advantage, it did get thrown away somewhat. There goes the Arnorian general, so now no one has a general. And that suits the elves a little bit more than it does the races of men. Obviously all their elites are still going to fight. Look at all this pouring out into this field. And at this point it does just become a game of sort of hunting down the loose units like these Swan Knights. And there was an extended period of this game, basically from now until the end, is very much just hunting down the units that were throughout. There was a bit of a desync issue in this game towards the end, and that did affect Creed's game, but he admitted defeat before anyway. I think he'd already admitted defeat at this point because Arnor's army is gone. It's really just Dol Amroth that are scattered throughout the Iron Hills. This is going to be it. Again, cycle charging, breaking, even Haven Guard breaking in the face of such overwhelming odds. And again, I think it might be a good idea actually if I make a little cut and just head to the end of the battle, because this is just a case of running down units that are way up here, because obviously Creed, he just left the game because of the desync, and he neglected to admit, well, he did admit defeat, but it doesn't matter. There were technical issues in a similar way to how you can't sort of speed up the game when someone left. So we shall rejoin just as the elves are about to win. So well done you if you picked the elves. So here we are. After the final few stragglers had been run down, these were the final results, and naturally the elves both did very well, but especially Tundra's Fox with Lothlorien. Again, that was mostly due to me being the orc, so I was the one with the most numbers on the field. Well, kind of. If you look at the men deployed, I actually was behind both Lothlorien and Rune. Lothlorien is a very strange one, and Arnor. And even Dol Amroth, I guess because of the amount of trolls I had. Even so, there was a lot of sort of base tier fodder units that their archers mown down as they sort of approached. You can see my ally got less kills than me, and I was up against the elves and he was up against men, so it does go to show that his passivity kind of didn't work. Again, my aggressiveness didn't work either. We were in poor communication, and that cost us the match. And again, it looked like the races of men were going to win that for a long time, but again, the cavalry proved decisive. They used all their cavalry on us up in the north, and the one thing my ally did that I could say was really, really good was he diffused the cavalry pretty effectively. There wasn't much of it left. The elves were able to take advantage of that, and good for Kong. I mean, if this was his first game on Reforged, to win something like that, that's pretty good. I mean, obviously there were no rules. If I do free-for-alls in the future, there will be rules. Because obviously this was just a bit of fun I decided to show because the 1,000 sub special fell through, at least for now. So hopefully the 1,000 sub special will be the next video. I apologise if I was a little spaced out for this video, but unfortunately, you know, I have gotten very little sleep the last couple of nights, but it really can't be helped. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll join me for the next one, which will hopefully be the 1,000 sub special.